Now, I've been really anxious to visit with you a little bit and ask you some questions about just when you were just younger, and I just wanted to ask you things. So if it sounds funny, well, I'm sorry, but what is your full name?
Catherine Eleanor.
Catherine Eleanor.
That's my grandfather.
Catherine Eleanor Manhart.
Yes.
Uh-huh. And what was your maiden name?
Steinauer.
Steinauer. Uh-huh. And where did you grow up?
In Steinauer.
In Steinauer, Nebraska.
Village.
In the village. Uh-huh. I see. Okay.
Yes, it was quite a little town at that time, but it's like a lot of these small towns, they just die.
Yeah.
There's nothing. It's like when my two younger brothers, they come here to Creighton, and they were close together, going to come to school, and I think Dad, well, of course, he kind of liked to have the boys stay at home,
Uh-huh.
He had the farm, and then he was in the bank there. The two older boys, when they got out of school, they went into the bank. Like, okay, Dad expected them to do the same.
Uh-huh.
And Mother said, no, she says, they don't want that work, and there's no industry here.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Who owned the bank?
Well, the Steinauer family.
The Steinauer family owned the bank?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes, they originally it's going now to, well, some of the church-in relations.
Yeah.
There now.
Yeah, I see. So you were born in Steinauer?
Yes.
Were you born at home?
Yes.
Was it a town? Was the house right in the little town there?
That's what?
Were you born in town?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Who was the doctor that delivered you? Do you remember? Was there a doctor there?
No, but there was one in Pawnee that they always called on. And in those days, a doctor all had a team, and he went on his calls.
Yeah. Uh-huh. So he came up from Pawnee?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Did he make it in time?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
And were you?
As far as I know, anyway.
Okay. Were you the first of your brothers and sisters to be born?
The oldest.
Uh-huh. Steinauer, that's German, isn't it?
Yeah, well, they come from Switzerland. But
Switzerland.
That's just, it's like all these, especially these foreign countries, they have a dialect,
Mm-hmm.
And anybody that understands German understands the Swiss and the Swiss.
German. Yeah, right now. Well, tell me about your dad.
Well, he's a...
Oh, first, before we do that, what year were you born?
1897.
1897. And what's your birthday?
August the 24th.
August the 24th. Of 97. Okay. All right. Now tell me about your dad. What kind of a man was he? What was his name?
Nicholas.
Nicholas? Nicholas Steinauer.
Nicholas Aloysius Steinauer.
Aloysius?
Mm-hmm.
My gosh, that's a beautiful name. Aloysius.
In fact, it's a name in the Jesuits. But, well, I don't know what had happened there in town if he hadn't been there. Because he brought the telephone and the lights, all those improvements to town.
He did?
Yes.
He put in the utilities there?
Yes, he brought the electricity from the plant, Pawnee had electric plant, whatever you want to call it. And then he see to the telephone come in first, I believe. Yes. And then the electricity. And I can remember them some young men from St. Joe, I believe it was, that did a lot of wiring in town.
What year did they bring the telephone in? You remember?
I don't know. I don't remember that.
But your dad paid for it and organized it?
Oh, he organized it, and well, of course, the town stood behind him. He was mayor and all the other officers in town.
No kidding.
And,
well, my goodness, and you call him Nicholas?
Nicholas, yeah.
How old were Nick? Call him Nick. Okay. How old were you? How old was he when you were born? In other words, when was he born anyway? Was he young or old?
He was born in 68, I think. I'm not sure.
In 68.
1868.
So he was about he was about 29 when you were born.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Then did he have a long life, or did he?
No, we lost him when he was 72.
72.
Mother was 92.
Oh my goodness. Well, what happened to your dad?
Well, he had a what do they call it? A ruptured
Appendix?
appendix.
Oh.
I think is what it.
What did it, huh?
And well, he just didn't.
John's home.
What's that?
John is home.
Is he home?
Yeah, he's
Oh, okay.
Hello. How's it going? Good. How are you doing?
So he had a ruptured appendix.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Of course, they operated.
This is Carol.
So,
Caroline.
Peritonitis, you know.
yes.
All I had to think of that the other day. I was trying to think of it and couldn't think of it.
Yeah. Peritonitis, that's what happens if you rupture your appendix, you know, and it does a lot of people in.
He had to be just absolutely down before he'd give in, you know.
Yeah.
And if he'd had it taken care of earlier, he survived. He was only 72.
I'll be darned. Was he in good health otherwise?
Well, as far as I know.
He didn't have any high blood pressure or diabetes or heart disease or anything?
I don't know. He had some. I don't think it was high blood pressure. It was his heart in some ways. I forget what it was.
Did his feet or ankles swell up any? Did they call it dropsy?
No. No, I didn't. First time I've heard that word for a long while.
Yeah. People don't talk about dropsy very much
You
anymore.
don't hear that anymore.
No. Well, these people still have it. Well, tell me about your mom. What was your mom's name?
Cosgrove.
Cosgrove.
Yeah. Our people are Irish.
Irish? Oh. And what was her first name?
Well, we always called her Anna. They always called her Anna.
Anna.
And Roseanne, I think it was.
Roseanne. Yeah.
She was known as Anna.
Was she a little bit younger than Nick?
No, she was. Now that brings me to Dad's age, I believe. He must have been somewhere about 25. Mother was between 27 and 8.
When you were born?
Well, when they were married.
When they got married?
Yeah.
Oh, so he was 2 or 3 years older. I mean, she was.
She was, yes.
Uh-huh.
She comes from a family that was of them married early.
Yeah.
They had a mother come to this country when she was 17 and married shortly after. It wasn't one of hers as they talked about getting married, but they heard about it.
She didn't like that, getting married early.
She said from 17 to 25 is the girl's best life.
Yeah. So she came from Ireland. Anna Cosgrove.
No, she was born in Illinois.
You're born in Illinois?
Yeah.
Where was she born in Illinois, do you know?
Seneca.
Seneca?
Seneca.
Mm-hmm.
It's about 72 miles southwest of Chicago.
Oh,
That's down where the Starved Rock is.
Which rock?
Starved Rock.
Starved Rock?
Yes. It was about 3,000 Indians starved there.
Oh.
And they had congregated some different tribes come together. They were going to massacre Ottawa. And there's this little Indian tribe right near Seneca that, well, old Chamonix stuff, old lawmongers on his knee when he used to come visit Grandpa.
The Indian held her on her knee?
Yeah, see, they lived just across the river from Grandpa, from that place. And it was he that informed that he went to Fort Dearborn in Chicago and told them what was happening. Because they had come to him and got a promise from him to help them out. But he went to Chicago to inform the troops, and they come down the next morning and they surrounded the rock there.
Starved them. They died, huh?
Yeah. There's a hotel, I think, up there on that now. It's quite a famous place in Illinois.
In near Seneca.
Yes. Between Seneca and Ottawa.
Okay. Well, my goodness, that's quite a story.
Where Mama come. She was about 8 years old when she came to Kansas.
Did she ever talk about the buffalo?
No.
You don't remember that?
No, she never. I don't think that when they come to Kansas that there was many buffalo left. The Indians and the troops got rid of most of them.
Yeah, I think so. Did she talk about the trainings much?
No, not only us, but it was some of the family. My grandpa's people that worked on the railroad. And there's a lot of the Irish. And they come to Kansas, while the rest of the family that was there in Illinois, while they were coming out here to get blown off. Because they had some tornadoes out here a year or so before they come. But they never experienced anything. Only one time they come pretty good and burned out.
Yeah.
With prairie fires. There's an Indian tribe up there near Wymore. I don't know, maybe 25 miles northwest of them. And they every fall or early spring, the Indians burned off the prairie. And this one day, grandmother come down to, grandfather was digging or cleaning out the well, I don't know which. But she heard this roaring noise she couldn't account for. She come down and asked him to come on up. She heard just the awful noise. he got up and here, there was some of the neighbors just happened along. They were building a backfire. Otherwise, they would like it not been burned out. Instead of blown out.
Yeah, right. Well, it sounds like you knew quite a few Indians, or your mother knew them and worked with them.
Well, after they come to Kansas, mother, of course, mother was just a youngster then. She and only once in a while the old Indian from there over at Wymore, he'd come down to come through the country. And one time he come through, grandfather had just gotten a load of lumber, and they sat down out in the yard on that. And when the old Indian threw his blanket off his shoulders and got over next to Grandpa. When he was gone, Grandpa was full of lice.
Is that right? Full of lice. Yeah. Well, it's hard to get rid of lice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was one of his experiences with the Indians when they come out here.
Yeah. Well, then, what year was Anna, your mother, Anna Cosgrove? What year was she born? Do you remember?
I just don't remember.
Must have been about 1865.
For Grandpa.
Oh, here, would you like a drink of water? I'll just set it here for you.
Thanks, Margaret. But most of it, they come there around Seneca and Ottawa. There's an awful lot of Irish. Grandmother Cosgrove, that is my mother's mother. Her name was Slattery.
Slattery? So she was Irish.
Yeah, I bet she was.
Well, tell me about your grandmother, Slattery.
Well, I didn't know. I really never met her. She.
Did she come from Ireland?
Yeah, oh yes. Well, she was about 3 years old when she came.
When she came over?
Yeah. And
so she must have been born about 1845 or something like that?
Somewhere around in there. That part of the family come, well, I don't know, grandfather come to New York first. 6 weeks on the Atlantic.
Golly.
6 weeks.
That's a long time.
They got out about 3-4 days and were blown back by a storm.
And he came from Ireland too, Grandpa Slattery.
He was leaving Ireland and coming to this country. And he had the 2 boys with him. And then there was 4 girls, I believe. But they didn't come till several years afterwards, like a lot of families that part of them come at a time. That's the way the Steinhauers. Grandfather was 18. Imagine an 18-year-old boy just coming alone.
Yeah, right.
No, not knowing the language. And or anything else pertaining to our culture. And he thought that he didn't know how to pronounce his name in English.
Now this was Nicholas's dad?
Yes.
What was his name, Nicholas's dad? Nicholas Joseph Steinhauer?
Yes. He's the youngest. Yes, he was the youngest of the 3.
3, he had 2 brothers?
2 brothers. And he come during the famine in Europe, you know. He said he'd have a potato about that big a day.
Ooh!
Can you you imagine? And so Switzerland had sponsored a lot of the young people that wanted to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And grandfather went down to the Mediterranean from Switzerland to take his boat.
Mm-hmm.
And
from France or from Italy, do you know?
From Switzerland.
Uh-huh.
He went from Switzerland to someplace along the coast of France, I think it was.
Uh-huh.
And he was here about 3 years when the other two come.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was in New York, why, he asked her, well, grandmother said in Old English, when grandmother, Dad's mother, told Mother a great many things, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She used to visit with Dad, my mother, a great deal. And grandfather thought he had to pronounce the name different. And this old Englishman said, Steiner.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that stuck. And I never been able to understand why. You know, they always had a school at home for years and years.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a good sized school. One time they had around 400 youngsters.
Oh.
And why they knew their rules and spelling.
Sure.
Why did they know it? I don't know. We had an old German priest at home one time, but he's pronounced it Steinauer.
Yeah.
And very expressive too.
Steinauer.
Yeah. And but they've had quite a wrangle about it here the last couple of years. They, I don't know. Maybe I said more than I should have, but their last meeting, the gathering of the clan, you know, and it come up something about the name, and I got up and tell them what happened. I don't know, some of them they kind of resented and others didn't. They were kind of glad to
have someone straighten the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Joseph was Nicholas's dad, and his two brothers came over after he did from Switzerland. But then all three of the family came from Switzerland because of the famine in Europe. And that must have been about 1840 or somewhere in there.
Somewhere in there. There's something 1852 rings in my mind for something, whether it's there's something that happened there in town a lot, but Dad had fixed the telephone, so they had kind of had a grocery store, you know, because there's a number of other people finally come in. But the first winter, those three spent the night in the dugout along the creek.
Oh my God!
First winter.
Ooh. That's the first winter when they moved down to Steinauer?
When they come into the government opened up the Nebraska territory for settling, and they could get 80. I'm forgetting 80 acres, and they paid $1 a quarter an acre, something like that. And grandfathers settled right there in town. I don't know what started them to. Well, they had the place right there near where they built their log cabin. And that log cabin stood a good many years.
About what year then did they come? Did Nicholas do that, or did Peter do that? Your granddad, or was it your dad?
It was grandfather.
Grandfather first settled in Steinhauer.
Yes. Yes, he got the, what do they call that?
Homestead.
Homestead, yes. Homesteaded there. And,
so they bought some land pretty cheap there and homesteaded.
yes.
Now, is there a river there or stream?
Yes, that's what, that's why they stopped there. They were headed for Kansas to begin with. But they come to this place, and there was a good stream there. And then there was a stream that come in from the west.
Also.
And this come from the northwest.
Mm-hmm.
So they had plenty of water.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know where that 1852 fits in. Maybe it's in that book. We've got a. Have you seen the?
No.
I've got.
Well, let's don't get it right now, but maybe we'll get it later. Okay. I'd like to later.
And they organized the bank. Steinhauer. There's the three. Uncle John and Dad and Uncle Bill, Uncle Frank. And in later years, Dad working on a lot of these other things, organizing, why he sort of dropped out a lot from a lot of the banking.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that book tells when they got the charter for the bank. But they had one time they had 3 general stores, a drugstore, hardware store, furniture store, and an implement store, and a good hotel. A lot of these.
Okay, I'm sorry, Grandma, just a minute. Hey, Margaret?
Yeah, I thought the clear was coming in earlier.
Is Sooner okay?
Yeah.
Where is she?
She's sitting on that.
Okay. I just heard some kids screaming. I didn't know if that was her.
Not ours.
All right. Okay, that's fine.
Caroline and the girls are just fine.
All right, fine. All right. Oh, we're having a good time. I'm learning a lot.
Can I fix you something to eat? Are you hungry?
No, I ate something a while ago.
What did you eat?
Well, never mind what I ate.
Well, maybe I could fix you a little sandwich or something. Scrambled eggs.
I had my toast.
Would you like a scrambled egg or something?
No, I just don't want anything to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's a little hot to be eating.
Well, I just don't have the appetite.
Yeah.
Maybe I should eat more, but because Catherine, when she's here, she pokes more down than me.
Yeah.
You bring the biggest plate of dinner, and I just, to clean the plate up, I'm just stuffed.
Yeah.
I feel stuffed anyway.
Yeah.
And you know what a feeling that is.
Yes.
It's very comfortable.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let me ask you then. Your granddad, Joseph, settled Steinhauer, the town of Steinhauer.
Yes.
Okay, and then it just grew from your family to more people came in there to work on the farms and settle and so forth. And so he must have developed a county seat or did something so that other people could come in there. But was it the head of the county or was that some other town?
No, this is just the railroad comes through there, and it was a midpoint between Fairbury and I think St. Joe or Hiawatha, I forget now which.
Okay.
And the railroad stopped there, and they put in a big water tower
Oh.
for the railroad. And then built the railway station and laid a lot of track in there. And it was they that more or less named the town because the grandma used to feed a lot of those workmen.
I see, on the railroad.
They had a lot of their equipment and things stored there, so they go from one end to the other.
Mm-hmm.
And
about what year did the railroad come through? How old were you?
I wasn't there at all.
Oh no, you weren't. That was before your time, huh?
Oh, it's before my time.
Uh-huh.
Oh goodness, I couldn't. It must have run through there between the 50s and 60s, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm. What was the name of the railroad? Which one?
Rock Island.
Rock Island?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know what, I don't remember what come up, but the man that was head of the crew there, I guess there was some talk of naming the town because they were putting a station there, and he wanted to call it Sanar because they helped it. And grandfather donated the land that the railroad was built on.
Mm-hmm.
And when they took up the railroad, they had to buy that back.
No kidding. When they took up the railroad, they had to buy their own land back.
Yes.
My goodness.
All along. Yeah.
All along the way, yeah.
Yeah.
Say, where did the Rock Island get its name?
Well, I wouldn't know.
You don't know?
No.
Well, then, how long did Joseph live? Was he an old man or?
Well, he was in his, I think, 70s. I don't think he made 80s.
Uh-huh.
I think he died. They died in the very early 90s. 92 or 3, somewhere around there. Maybe.
A few years before you were born, huh?
No, I knew grandfather. I was born in 97.
But you knew him.
Yes, I knew him.
So he must have been born after the turn of the century.
Oh yes, he was. I can't think to name the date, but I knew grandfather.
How old do you think you might have been?
Maybe the early 80s, but I doubt not much more.
Uh-huh. Okay. But how old do you think you were when he passed away? Do you remember when you were a little girl?
Well, I just don't remember any specific instance of his death.
That's okay. Was he a fat man or a skinny man or tall or thin or
Well, he had
short?
plenty height. He wasn't short, but and he was a little heavy. He wasn't very heavy, but he was.
A little stocky?
Yes.
Uh-huh. What about your dad?
Well, he was somewhat the same, but Dad was. I don't think Dad was as tall as his dad was.
Oh. Uh-huh. I see.
Grandmother was kind of short.
Yeah.
Count for that. Boys always take after the mother inside the house. A lot of those traits.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Well, my goodness.
I thought a lot of grandmother. I knew her pretty well.
You knew your grandmother pretty well.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
But she lived long. She lived maybe 10 years beyond Grandpa.
I see. So you must have been 20 or 25 when she passed away.
Oh, no.
No?
No. No, I was 8 or 10, somewhere else.
Oh, 8 or 10?
Something like that.
Okay. I wanted to ask you, how many brothers and sisters do you have?
I had 4 brothers, 2 sisters.
4 brothers and 2 sisters.
3 of the brothers are gone, and they all went the same way.
How was that?
Heart attack.
Heart attack. Who did they look like? Your mom or your dad?
Well, oh, I don't know what it's. I know one of my boys. And they had mumps. Looked exactly like my dad.
Is that right? When they had the mumps, they looked just like your dad.
Here lay Mark on the Davenport. I don't know what happened to him. Come by and see what he was doing. And I know it just, there was such a resemblance, it struck me. And my youngest brother was at the house at the time. And I said, Jared, come here. And so he looked at me, he just started to laugh. He see the same thing I did.
Yeah.
Exactly like that. So Dad got older, he got a little heavy, you know. And,
what were your brothers' names?
Edmund, we called him Ed. He was called after Mother's brother that she lost when he was about 22 or 3, something. At that time, there were so many tuberculosis deaths.
A lot of people had tuberculosis.
Yes. And Norbert's the second boy. And Dick and Jerry are the 2 youngest in the family. Dick got his mother was so provoked when she didn't like any nicknames. And it was always Richard, as long as she lived. I don't think she ever said Dick in her life.
Never called him Dick.
No.
Okay. What about your sisters? How many sisters?
2.
And what was their names?
Mildred and Genevieve.
Mildred? Oh, beautiful name, huh?
See, and
Mildred and Genevieve.
Mama wanted to call me after. No. It was Mildred she was going to call Emma. And Grandmother, no, she wouldn't do that. That was her name, and she just hated it.
Yeah.
But,
well, you know,
the second and Jen's youngest.
Yeah. My name is Stanley Jack Locke, and my dad called me Jack, and Jack was my real name, not John. So, but I never went by Stanley. It was always, I'm Margaret's husband, and but I never went by Stanley, always by Jack. My dad said that he named me after a mule that he had one time. That he liked named Jack.
Was he stubborn?
I don't know. Well, Grandma, then where did you go to school? Did you go right there to Steinhauer?
Yes,
How old were you when you started school?
I'm the average age of
5 or 6.
5 or 6.
Did you like school?
Yes, I enjoyed school. We had a great big square building on top of the hill there, just at the northeast side of the town.
Mm-hmm.
And it was surrounded by 2 rows of cedars around a 4-block square.
Mm-hmm.
And that big old school had 4 rooms, 2 upstairs and 2 downstairs. And That's where I went to school.
Was there any equipment in the playground? Was there any playground?
Oh, we had playground, but the boys played baseball over at the corner, and
Yeah.
then the rest had to play on the other side.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. Baseball was a pretty popular game, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. I was 16 years old before I saw it. When I saw Dad playing the last time,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
he played on the town team.
But he liked to play baseball.
Oh, he did.
Uh-huh.
He loved to play baseball.
Uh-huh. Was he a magician? I mean, a musician?
Yeah.
Did he play an instrument?
He is director of the band at home for as long as we had a band.
Uh-huh.
And there was, I think, there were 20 pieces in it.
Mm-hmm.
He used to have to go around to different festivals that was going on,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
other towns and all around.
Mm-hmm.
And he could play about any of the instruments.
Mm-hmm.
I used to have to sit at the piano while the rest of them sit at the dining room table playing cards.
Yeah.
And he'd play some of his, the violin once, and maybe a clarinet another time.
Oh, my
Another
goodness.
time it'd be some other instrument.
Uh-huh.
And, and then he directed the choir at home from the time he began until, I was away from home before he turned things over for somebody else to.
Uh-huh. Well, Nick was quite a fellow, wasn't he? He was into music and baseball and business and banking and utilities.
Well, as I said, he just did about anything that he had done.
And he was a farmer, apparently, a good farmer, huh?
Well, he did a certain amount, but he started the boys and they were to keep them out of mischief.
Yeah, keep him out of mischief.
One time he caught the boys and another one, two of the boys in town, smoking in the hay barn.
Uh-oh.
And did they get it?
Wow.
They never went back to
They didn't do that again, huh?
there. No, they didn't.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
And I can remember getting up and going down to milk.
Uh-huh.
You know, he had 3 or 4 maybe.
Uh-huh.
Maybe another one or so. And we had a big hay barn, and that's where we did the milking. And they had this dancing.
Is Jan the girl that lives upstairs?
Angel color.
Angel.
Oh. There's not Jan?
Huh?
No, it's not Jan. Well, my goodness, that's, he did quite a few things there, didn't he?
Oh, he did. I don't know what the town would be like even today if it hadn't been
For him.
for him.
Was it a church choir that he directed, or was it a city choir?
Church choir.
Church choir. What church was it?
Huh?
Which church? Catholic church?
Well, sure.
Okay. Was there any other church in town?
No.
That was it. Uh-huh.
No, the Lutheran was way out. It was out a mile west and a mile northwest of town. Then there was another one about 3-4 miles off the northeast.
Uh-huh.
It was one of the men that, he played the big bass horn.
Mm-hmm.
He was a big, heavy set man. The only one that could carry the horn.
Uh-huh. You're not Jan, are you?
No, my name is Angel.
Angel. Yes. Okay.
I answered the phone.
Okay, you answered the phone.
Well, no, I usually do, and that's what I say. Angel speaking.
I see. Okay. All right. Okay. Well,
Anyway, I lost my train of thought.
well, let me ask you another question. How did you do in school? How long did you stay in school there in Steinau?
Well, I was there till my last year in high school. And mother got to worrying about her mother and dad, they lived in Marysville. And
Marysville, Illinois?
no, Kansas.
Kansas.
And so she wanted me to go down there. And I went into high school there and finished my last year in Marysville.
Oh. Marysville, Kansas. How far away was that? About, what, 100 miles?
Oh, it was pretty close to it. See, about 20 miles to the border. I think it was 20 miles to Summerfield. And then, Marysville wasn't that far.
So what?
Somewhere about 50 miles.
50 miles.
Yes, Grandma and Grandpa used to drive back and forth. They'd come up to visit, and Grandma always had a nice team because they traveled.
Yeah, good
He
team.
just, he wouldn't have them unless they were good and lively.
Good on the road, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And were the roads pretty good?
Well, yes, for country roads, they were. Nobody had gravel roads or paved roads or anything. It was all just
country roads. Sure.
Roads, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't know about those things then.
No, we sure didn't. Well, do you remember the first car you ever saw?
I don't remember the first car I ever saw, but the first one we had at home. And that was a Rio. I don't know what, I forget this. He is one of the big firms that built that.
Ford?
No, it wasn't a Ford, but
Chrysler?
the first Ford that come to town was the first car that come to town was a Ford. Dad's older brother got paid $1,000 for it.
Is that right?
Yeah. Now you couldn't touch it under $25,000.
That's right. And what year was that first Ford coming to Steinauer?
Well, I guess I was maybe about 12 years old, something like that.
You were about 12, so about 1910 maybe.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And we got the Rio. It had the front seat, that was open. There wasn't a door there. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And in those days, there wasn't a motor you couldn't let idle. And you couldn't idle like you do now and then pick right up.
Right. You either started it and went, or you didn't go.
Yeah. And Dad had to go to the neighboring town to get it. And the man that he was buying it from had come over to get him. And they picked up one of the other men from town. He's a man that was postmaster for years there. His oldest son and my oldest brother. And they went to Elk Creek to get the car. Well, Mother was all ready. At that time you could hear the cars for miles and miles away. And coming down that old cemetery hill, you could always hear the cars. Well, we heard the car coming, and Mother had polished us all up. Who was it? Jen, I think was a baby, I forget now which. And they went steaming right by the house. There's a main street in the town, And went right by it. Mother was so provoked. It was about a half hour before he'd come back. Of course, when he got downtown, the men around town crowded in, they had to see it, this and that. Dad couldn't get away, and they come up, and finally we got started off on a little bit. trip. And Dad's oldest sister lived out in the country. I know she was kind of his favorite, and he drove out to her place to show her the car. And then they come back the other way, down past our hayland and pasture, and there's quite a little hill there. Coming down that hill, well, there was one of the countrymen coming up with an old pair of old plugs that nothing could scare. And he stands up in the front of his rig and he waves his hands. So Dad pulled over the side, and that it wasn't enough for him. So Dad shut off his motor. The old plugs went by, didn't see the car at all.
I'll be darned.
And then he couldn't stop the car.
Yeah.
So he had to let it down on the level before
So the gas would flow to it, right?
Yeah, and you had to crank it because it didn't have a starter.
Right.
Now that isn't, see how that,
That's not infected. No, that's not too bad.
well, that isn't half bad.
Yeah.
It's been.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, we got home after that was our first car trip.
I'll be darned.
So
First car trip.
Yeah.
I'll be darned.
first time I'd ridden in a car.
Do you remember the first airplane you saw?
I believe I do.
Have you been flying on the airplanes? Do you remember flying on an airplane?
Oh yes, I've flown on, gone to California and back.
Do you like flying on airplanes?
No,
No.
I can't see anything.
Yeah, it's hard to see. Isn't it?
The best way is to drive.
Yeah.
You see,
Then you can see
when I go someplace, I want to see where I'm going.
Yeah, right, yeah. I know what you mean. What about a ship? Have you ever been on a ship? Did you ever go back to Switzerland?
No, but I went, well, I did two here in 83.
Uh-huh.
My oldest son and my daughter that's none that's in southern Colorado,
Claire.
Claire,
Mm-hmm.
and Paul, the Jesuit,
Mm-hmm.
and we went to Europe.
Mm-hmm.
We were gone full 30 days.
I'll be darned.
We hit Luxembourg. We landed there. The first flowers I saw in Europe were dandelions.
I'll be darned. Yeah.
A lot of dandelions in a little place near the airplane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I still laugh when I think of it. Oh, dirty dandelions we just hate in this country.
They like them there.
Well, I don't know.
They've got them. I don't know if they like them or not.
Yeah, they brought them here too.
Yeah, they sure did.
But,
Well,
airplanes are for the birds.
yeah, for the birds, huh?
Yeah.
What about your telephone? Do you remember putting the telephone in when you first got a telephone? The kind you ring up like this?
Yeah, we had to. Oh, I don't know.
What was your phone number?
16.
16?
16, then.
Yeah.
But they, I don't know, I just don't remember when I first saw it, because when I was about, how old was I can barely remember the house that I was born in. There's only little square cottages.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose the only way I remember that is Dad had come home from a trip, and he'd just taken his things off and stuff he lay on the tray on the dresser. And I, like the kids, you know, I was up earlier than some of the rest of the family, and run into a match. We had one of those base burners, you know, with the isinglass in it. And I put the match up to that, of course it blazed. And I had taken it, and I had one of these little, what they would call them, an apron, but it was almost a dress.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, when the thing blazed up, I caught the apron too. And well, it's quite a little exciting in the house, and I almost got a spanking for it.
Not bad.
Mom wouldn't let him.
Mom wouldn't let him spank you, huh?
No, it was, I guess she knew I learned my lesson.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wonder it didn't catch my hair. I had long hair. And mother had a girl working for her at the time, and she went to the water bucket, and there's no water there.
Uh-oh.
She had to go out and pump some water, and by the time she got the water, mother was around, and I don't know how they put it out. I don't remember that, but it just, I don't know, outside that, I just don't remember a thing that happened.
Uh-huh. But you remember setting that isinglass on fire, huh?
And the match, the isinglass was hot, you know, on the lit match.
Uh-huh. Where did isinglass come from?
I couldn't tell you that.
What'd you use it for?
Well, there was such things as that on the stove, you know. Little pieces about that big square, you know, and the doors are there. I don't remember seeing it on anything else at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But
Did you have a horse?
not particularly, no.
Not much, uh-huh.
We had a horse that we used to ride once in a while. There was two or three, at least three other girls around my age that used to take it. I'd get a horse, Nell would get a horse, Frida would get a horse, Francis would get a horse, and we'd take off out through the country.
Mm-hmm.
And one time, we had come back, and I had gone down to the barn to leave the horse, and Frances Rucker had gone with me, and she had her dad got a little Indian pony. You know, they used to ship horses on the railroad from the west, you know. And we stopped at the back of the Ruckers. They had the store right across the street from the bank.
Mm-hmm.
There was a big brick building, a two-story building. And we stopped there to, for some reason or other. Anyway, a horse went off and left Francis. So we had to walk, and then we get the lads along the street see us walking, and they'd seen the pony going ahead, and they knew what happened to we girls. But, and Grandma and Grandpa had been up when they got into the house. The idea. Riding clothespin fashion.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Oh,
Clothespin. Is that what she called it? When you would ride the horse,
straddle, you know.
straddle it?
None of us had any I don't think any of us had a saddle. We all. But the idea riding close-fitting fashion.
Oh,
she rode side saddle and she could ride.
Is that right?
Yes. Grandfather had an Indian pony that she used to ride, and she'd go visiting the neighbors. If there's anybody sick, why, she'd ride the horse to the neighbors and fasten the reins up and send him home.
Yeah.
But she could ride side saddle. And Mother rode side saddle. But I didn't.
No, you rode close-fit.
Close-fit fashion.
Say, how often did you go to church?
How
often did you go to church when you were a little girl?
Oh, I lived right next door to church. And during school time, we went every day. We lived right next door to the church. And to this day, there's some little stop at Jim's and thinking it's the parsonage. Well, the parsonage isn't just north of the church. But,
did you have a priest?
Oh, yes. We had a resident priest as long as I can remember. And we had a resident priest before Tecumseh had.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
And,
hey, let me ask you about the circus. Did the circus ever come to town?
no, we never had. No.
You never had a circus?
Not that I
You weren't big enough to get a circus.
No.
Because they came on a train, you know. Where did you ever see a circus when you were a little girl?
Yes.
Where did you have to go?
Well, I can remember one special trip we made to Beatrice. And Dad had to drive pretty lively to get us home before it rained. We got into the garage and started hailing, and the old garage was made of this corrugated, and the hail on that, you couldn't hear yourself think.
It was loud, huh?
But he just had that. And there was part of the road, had one of these great big centers, you know. He had an awful time driving across for that, but we'd gone to Beatrice for that. I don't remember what time we started it. Beatrice is about 35 miles west of us. So that took a little while to drive.
Oh, yeah.
And I forget, it seems to be Pawnee had circus once in a while. But that's that time the Beatrice is really the biggest circus that I'd seen.
Was it Barnum and Bailey?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You know that my great aunt married Mr. Barnum, and they owned the circus that went through. And my great uncle financed Walter Chrysler for the Chrysler Car Company.
How's that?
He financed Mr. Chrysler, and they built the Chrysler Car Company.
Chrysler.
Yeah.
They make a pretty good car.
Yeah, they do. Well, you know, I think I need to charge the batteries up on our camera here. And what I'd like to do is to stop for just a little while and go charge the batteries up, and then I want to talk to you some more. This has been really fun.
Oh, I've enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, let me go charge my. Yeah, we haven't thought about them for a while. Yeah.
And you kind of forget some of the particulars that
If you don't talk about them, you forget. Well, I wanted to ask you more later about marrying Mr. Manhart and then your family and World War I, World War II, and things like that. And do you remember Einstein? Do you remember reading about Mr. Einstein, the physicist?
Oh, I've got a faint recollection of it somewhere in there. I don't think there remember anything in particular.
Albert Einstein?
Yes. the name is familiar there, that is that. But connected with something else.
Right. Which has been your favorite president? The one that you remember the best, that you like the most?
Amongst the old ones, I don't know that I have any particular. I never was really interested much in politics until I got older, and maybe when the women got their franchise. And then I made a remark at home at the table one day. Well, they weren't bothered voting. Men could take care of things. You get out there and you get down there and vote. You need to be. How was it he said it? Oh, I forget now. Just what it was. He said.
When were women allowed to vote?
Well, that was then. I was in the bank in Pawnee at the time.
You were working in the bank at Pawnee?
Yes. I was there about 6.5 years before I got married. And I wasn't registered in Pawnee, so I'd take the train up home and come back on. You could go up on the train and then come back on the cross there at home. And just time enough to vote to get back. I worked in the farmers state, for the farmers state bank.
In Pawnee?
Pawnee, yeah.
Pawnee, Nebraska.
Yeah, they usually call it Pawnee City. They have the Pawnee County. Used to cost me $0.25 to go back and forth on the train.
On the train, yeah.
And to drive down there, I think it's about 9-10 miles. And the railroad, of course, cuts out a lot of corners.
Goes pretty much straight.
Yes. And it cost me $0.25 to ride down there, or ride up. I'd come home Saturday evening after work. Usually come home about 7:30. Then I'd go back down in the morning about the same time, 7, or after 7. And then they had the two that passed during the midday between 1 and 2.
The trains?
Yes.
Was it a single track or was it a double track? Where there's one going east and west?
I mean, a single track. But there at home they had a lot of side trackage that they didn't have any place else along.
Yeah.
But they often used to park a lot of their box cars out there on those side tracks. They all said the railroad did that to get the cars out of sight, so they put on the county taxes.
Oh, yeah.
But we had good service while they up to after I was away from home, or after I was married.
Well, listen, I'm going to shut this camera off and charge the batteries a little bit,
Okay.
and then I'll be back in just a little while. Okay?
Okay.
And I've really enjoyed talking with you.
Oh, I enjoyed it. Kind of bringing up things I had forgotten about.
Yeah, sure. It's on now?
Okay. We'll see you at the house, okay?
Look it up. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You going home, Mary?
Yeah, I'm gonna go home. This one needs a nap.
Oh, see you later.
Maybe see you tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay. Come on.
Bye-bye, guys.
I'll be taking my car.
We're going to talk about 30 minutes
No,
more.
we'll just sit down.
Be careful with the children.
I will. Where's my car? Back there? Yeah. Yeah. Where are your shoes? Where are your shoes? Go get your shoes. Here. You watch her.
Well,
Youngsters, but she's a little older than that. And she's got hair. It's red and it just sits out. She just got that. What in the world?
yeah. Well, that little girl, Caroline, my girl, she's got the most beautiful blonde hair. It's just got curls in the back of it, just like crazy, you know. It's really nice. I like that. Well, now, when did you meet your husband?
Well, I was in the bank.
In Pawnee?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
He was on a tour for a campaign, and he'd come down. He stopped at Pawnee, and he wanted to. Well, he'd gone to this realtor, a prominent man in town, that politician, and his secretary told he told them that he was looking for all the different politicians around the country, and they mentioned the one up home. That was my dad.
Uh-huh.
And well, how would he meet her? I get to meet him. Well, this secretary says his daughter is in the bank down there, out over here on the corner. So he comes over to the bank and asks for me. And I'm in the midst of my bookkeeping. And I was called. I wondered what in the world he wanted. Well, he said he wanted to meet Dad. Well, I was going up home that evening. I go up on
the train?
On the train. Well, of course, Dad was driving. Paul was driving. And he said, well, he said, I can take you up. And well, okay, we made arrangements to pick me up to drive up home.
In a horse and buggy?
No, he had a
car?
Had a Ford.
I see.
And they were having some program or other that night. I can't remember what it was, but it gave Paul a chance to talk anyway. And of course, talk to Dad. Dad was, at that time, Dad was a Republican.
At that time, your dad was a Republican?
My dad, yes.
Uh-huh.
And
Paul was Democrat?
No, he's a Republican. Mm-hmm. And he was running for Congress.
Mm-hmm.
And but there was some particular issue up at that time. I forget now. Anyway, we of course stopped at home and then went down to the hall for the entertainment.
The city hall?
Yeah, well, it was, the bank was built on two floors. That is, the building is 2 stories, and you might call it a city hall, but we used it for all entertainments in the town, And when they come back from the program, we walked up from the hall up to my home. Got there by his tires were flat.
Oh my goodness.
Well, Dad smelled a rat. My dad. Norbert come on. He says, "You get busy and get them tires up." Norbert had done it.
Oh,
He's always doing stunts like that.
Isn't that something?
And anyway, that's the first time I had been with Paul.
What was his full name?
Paul Ignatius Manhart.
Paul Ignatius Manhart.
Yes.
Now tell me about him. Where did he come from?
Well, he originally come from Panama, Iowa. That's where he was born and raised. And
Panama.
Panama,
Panama, Iowa.
It's a small town, not too far from Erling. Erling is a larger place. That's up north of Cotswolds, place.
I see.
And he went to school. He had a high school. Went to high school there, obviously in Panama. And when he finished high school, he was a great friend. He's a man that was in Congress, or was he senator? An Irish name, I think of it. Anyway, how was it there? Well, he went to Georgetown after he left high school. He was there for college and his law degree there.
Georgetown in Washington.
Washington, yeah.
D.C.
Yes, when he finished, he come back to Iowa. But he took the Nebraska bar, and he passed, I guess, the best exam that was taken, 100%. He was always kind of proud of that. And we started dating.
Now, how did he date you? Did he stay in Pawnee then? Or?
No, he used to drive back, and he lived in Auburn.
Auburn,
Nebraska.
He lived there?
Yes, his home was there.
How far away was that from Pawnee, or from Steinhauer? 20 miles?
Oh, it must have been that, 20, 25 miles. I really don't think Tecumseh was 13 miles. Auburn. Well, it was not all 25 miles.
Oh, yeah.
But he used to come down on weekends. But by that time he was here in Omaha, and old Senator
Anyway, were they friends?
Huh?
Was the old senator his friend?
Well, how he come to know him, I don't know. Only he was in his office. This old Crane. Old Senator Crane.
And he was in his office?
Yes, until he died.
So he worked there as an attorney?
Yes.
Right?
And we married in 23.
You got married in 23.
Yeah.
So you were about 26 when you got married, huh?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
My sister's first sister, Mildred, she was always, she's anything to tease you about why she had it.
She would tease you.
Yeah. In her 25-year-old maid.
Called you an old maid?
Yeah.
Well, how old was Paul when you got married?
28 or 9, somewhere around there. Well, he was born in 94.
94? So he was 3 years older than you.
Yeah.
Okay. Was he a good-looking man?
Well, he wasn't too bad. Yeah. He was real tall.
Real tall.
Real tall and slender. That's where my kids get their height.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now then, what did Paul's dad do back in Iowa?
He worked with leather goods. He's a harness maker, I believe is what. Yeah.
Harness maker. Yeah.
In those days they used harness for it.
Oh, they sure did. They really did a lot then, didn't they? Yeah.
But he died in Paul quite young.
What happened to him? Do you remember? What did he die of?
That I don't remember.
Well, then you dated for how long before you got married?
Oh, I guess it was a year.
Maybe a year or something like that. Yeah. And then you started having babies then.
Yeah. Yeah, 12 of them.
Had 12. My gosh.
And I had the same doctor. They were all born at home.
Well, he was a good doctor, wasn't he?
He was a doctor. They wish they had doctors like him nowadays.
What was his name?
O'Connor.
O'Connor.
Yeah. He had treated Paul's father before he died. And he was in Missouri Valley. And when he married a young woman, I think in Missouri Valley. But he lost her when his first youngster come. He only had the one boy, and it just floored him. He just couldn't stay in Missouri Valley any longer. So
that was a little town there?
Well, it was pretty good size. I think Missouri Valley is a county seat of a county there. I don't know what county it is.
But he was a good doctor.
Yes, he was. And the evening that David come, David was either the 5th that he had taken care of 5 besides anyway. I forget how much it was. So he was a great baby doctor. He was a graduate of the St. Louis.
I see.
What did I tell John?
I don't know what we were going to tell John. Someone called for him?
Yeah, somebody been calling him. Maybe they put the message on me.
Someone's been calling for you, John.
That's right here. Thanks for taking the message for me.
Sure.
And
well, what makes a good doctor?
well, takes care of his patient like he should. these old family doctors. I'm afraid to get sick, but I have to go to the hospital. Get there while the doctor would send me to the hospital. Like every doctor was staff receipt. They charge you $100 every time.
Yeah.
If they just come in and say, how do you do?
And charge you.
Yeah. And I had no comment. I don't know. I just, when he had his stroke, I just wasn't, I didn't know what to do. Well, he was a young man that was raised in near where I lived on South 33rd. Ryder, Jim Ryder. His two younger sisters went through a grade in high school with Francis and Mary, my two boys. Well, he was, I liked Jim. He's retired. What's he going to do?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, Francis is your oldest, and you had 12 all together. Is that right?
Yeah.
And
Francis and Mary, Paul and David, Jane, John, and Hugh, Catherine and Claire, Judy and Bill.
And where was Mark?
Mark is here.
Oh yeah, I know, but which one was he? Where does Mark come into that?
Mark and Judy. Jane is, what's her name? The one that's gone. They're all living with
her.
And she's between 4 boys.
Yeah.
Paul and David, John and Hugh. And they could just wrap her.
Is that right?
She could wrap her around her finger.
I'll be darned.
No matter what body. They all the boys idolized her.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks before she died, 6 of them, Paul happened to be home, and all 6 of them went down to see her. And they visited with her for a while. After they left, I went into the room. She just cried and cried and cried. She knew that was the last time she'd see him. And but those boys all I know Bill was down in the Mediterranean when Jane died. And he called Ralph, that was Jane's husband's name. He just, it upset him pretty bad. But they, outside of that way, they're all living and they're all have pretty good health as far as I know.
Well, that's good. That's really good.
David is a widower now. His wife is gone. The others are all gone.
Well, that's great.
I don't see how Paul stands up there at the Indians. I see what he wants. Because he said one time that the provincial visit each one of his men at once a year anyway. He asked Paul, he wants to be moved or wasn't satisfied. Satisfied, I'd very well.
You like that Indian reservation? As a priest, huh?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Over 35 years now.
He's been there on the reservation for 35 years. Well, my goodness. Now, Bill's a priest too.
No.
Now, wait a minute. Let me think.
Bill works for the city and county welfare.
Oh, that's right. Okay, right. So Paul's the only priest, isn't he?
Yes.
Uh-huh. I was thinking about Bill Kalin. I was the wrong guy. Okay, wrong person.
Well, the Kalin, there's 3 in that family.
Claire. Well, now Claire is your only nun, isn't she?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
The 6 girls.
Uh-huh.
But I wasn't going to complain. It was the good Lord to take one of the youngsters.
Yeah.
Well, he took 2, so
You got 2. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Let me ask you about World War I. What do you remember about World War I? You must have been in high school.
I was in high school.
Uh-huh.
There isn't much I can remember. I can remember some of them. They would just kill the Kaiser if they got me. But my poor grandfather, Cosmo, he used to, at a certain hour, like in the afternoon, he'd go down and get his mail. There was a Kansas City paper that he got every day. And he ran into, there was a company of the troops. They were laying over for a rest there in Reddersville. And they were out on marching. He come home just sick. He said, those young men, and what they had to look for. He was just, of course, he'd gone through the Civil War, and though he was with Sherman on his march to the sea.
Oh, really? Uh-huh.
So he didn't run into any of the real big battles, But the other side of the house of Slattery, Uncle Tim was the captain of the Illinois 55th. And his only brother was his orderly.
Uh-huh.
And he was wounded at Shiloh and died after he'd gone out there just after the second day of the battle. Ed didn't show up after, he didn't get back in camp after the battle. So Uncle Tim went looking for him and found him, and he sent the company doctor home with him, and he died on the way.
At Shiloh.
At Shiloh, yeah.
Well, wars are bad, aren't they?
Oh, aren't they though? In the way they've been doing the last few years, how in the world do they? How can they be so ruthless?
Well, it's a question of power, I guess, and money, resources, but mostly power. Now, what did you think about World War II? Tell me about that.
Oh, I know my oldest brother was just barely old enough to go into service, so he never was in service. But David, Ed had a disability. He'd had pneumonia 3 times. And the third time, from sometime in March till July, he was in a wheelchair. He just so weak, And Norbert, Norbert was sent down in Arizona, Oklahoma. But then he never really had any trouble at all.
Mm-hmm.
I just, outside of that, I just can't remember anything in the Second World War.
Do you remember Pearl Harbor?
Yes. Yes, I remember it. Yes.
In 1941?
Yes, I remember that. I just remember, that all that happened. But
Where were you living during World War II?
well, South 33rd here in Omaha.
Here in Omaha.
Yeah. Yes, I lived there. Time Jane come.
So you and Paul moved from, where did you live first when you were?
42nd and Marcy.
Oh, you lived here in Omaha?
Oh, yes.
You just moved right?
At St. John's.
You got married at St. John's
Yes.
Church?
Yes.
And then you lived in Omaha all of your life then, since then?
Yeah, since 23.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. And where was your house? The first house?
Out in 42nd and Marcy.
42nd and Marcy.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Paid $4,200.
Paid $4,200 for the house? Uh-huh.
Then we went to South 33rd.
South 33rd.
I think we paid about the same for that.
About the same.
And John has owned it since. And he sold it here not too long ago. And they tell me he paid around $45,000. Got for it.
45,000.
And we paid $4,200.
Oh my gosh. My gosh. Well, yeah. And then you and Paul, did you buy a car then, or did you already have a car?
Well, he had a car.
Uh-huh. What kind was it?
Ford.
Uh-huh.
Ford.
Was it a Model T?
Yeah. And we had that a little while. Then we got a Chevy next.
Uh-huh.
And he drove that along.
Yeah. What color was it? Black, wasn't it?
No.
Wasn't?
It was blue.
Blue. Huh?
And then we had another car. But I liked better than a Chevy.
Yeah. Was it a Pierce Arrow?
No. And then we had a Lincoln 7-passenger.
My goodness. That's a big car.
We drove to Colorado in that.
Yeah.
Had the 4 owners with us.
Yeah.
And we were out at, Paul had to look after some property out in western Kansas. And what's the name of that town out there? No, I can't think of that.
Can't think of it.
No, I just can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
And then we come back through Denver.
Mm-hmm.
But from that place there, we went north a ways, and then we crossed the border into Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to Colorado Springs. And we were in went some sightseeing up there.
Did you go up on Pikes Peak?
Yes,
That's pretty high.
yes, we went up there. And
Did you go to the Royal Gorge?
yes. And I figured, well, we got up on Pikes Peak up above the clouds, and you know there wasn't hardly any clouds there.
I'll be darned. Yeah.
I was disappointed. I thought I'd get above the clouds once to see them here.
Yeah.
My dad had been out to Pikes Peak years before.
Mm-hmm.
He got out and his nose started bleeding, and he couldn't wait for the train that brought them up. He had to walk back.
Oh.
Nose bleed so bad.
Uh-huh. So he rode the train up there on that Manitou incline train. Uh-huh.
I suppose that's what it was.
Yeah.
And of course, I had certain times it went back and forth. And it wasn't going. His nose got the bleeding so bad. He
Had to walk
I
down.
had to walk back. Mary at the Royal Gorge out to the edge of the cliff, and I forget how deep it was.
Pretty deep.
She crawled over and peeked over.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty good.
They had quite a little experience wandering around up there before they come back down.
Uh-huh. Well, you had a good life here in Omaha, haven't you?
Well, we were there, lived down there.
33rd.
Yeah.
Then where did you move?
Well, over there in 31. Something on Chicago Street.
Mm-hmm.
We went from 33rd Marcy,
Mm-hmm.
33rd in Chicago, 31 in Chicago. There's a bigger house. Needed room for those lads of mine.
For those kids, yeah.
Sure did.
Yeah. Well, yeah, if you had 12 of them, I bet you needed a lot of room.
And the boys are up on the 3rd floor. Well, just part of them. I guess there's 3 of them up on the. Then there's 4 large bedrooms.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all filled.
Yeah, I bet they were. Yeah. That's really something. I guess Paul was practicing law all of this time, huh?
Yes.
He had his law office, did he?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Down there, just office. Down 16th and Douglas.
Did he have a pretty good law practice?
He had kept us alive.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes pretty meager, but we managed. In those days, they weren't like they are nowadays. Kathy with her accident here, well, she got 50,000. Well, she didn't get much out of it after all.
Yeah. Yeah.
If she hadn't had her seatbelt on, she wouldn't be here.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
That lawyer sure took a hunk out of it.
Yeah. Lawyer took a lot of money, huh?
Yes,
Well, now, was Paul a healthy person?
fairly heavy.
Fairly
healthy, you say?
healthy. Was he healthy?
He had pretty good health, yes.
Did he have high blood pressure or diabetes or anything like that?
No.
Was he heavy or?
Well, he's rather light. He wasn't.
Pretty trim.
Yes. He always was.
What did he like to eat?
Oh, I don't know that he never said much about this or that he'd rather have or anything.
What did you like to eat most in your life?
Well, what I could get a hold of.
Were you ever very heavy?
No. At the time when Jane came, I'd gotten a little heavy, but that's the only time that I really was heavy.
Let's see now, she had cancer of some sort, if I remember.
Yes.
Was it breast cancer maybe? Or?
And it was in her back.
Uh-huh.
And oh, she suffered terrible with it.
Yeah.
And a real nice doctor there in Seneca that took care of her. He did all there was to do for her.
Yes, Yeah. But Paul was pretty healthy, huh?
Yes, he was fairly healthy.
And you've been healthy in your life, huh?
Yes.
Have you had anything wrong with you?
Not really. Only time I had an appendix, me, and well, and I guess there's it was not long before Francis come. And Mama said something to O'Connor. I guess I was going in for the operation.
For your appendix?
Yes. And she said, well, her father wouldn't approve of this. Well, he said it's either both of them, one or the other of them. So Mother didn't say anything more. But then Frances was coming, like she had said something to Paul about what hospital was I going to. Well, he didn't know yet, so he goes to O'Connor. And I guess he must have asked him if they couldn't come at home. For sure. So the deliveries were all at home, every one of them. And I always had a nurse. And they kept me down 2 weeks usually. Up to the last one. I felt so good about 6 days that I got up anyway.
Yeah, that's fine, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't a very good idea, having women lay down.
No, it isn't. It's best to move around. It's like Jane. I had the appendix operation once. She was taken with it down home. And they brought her up here. And Swartley did O'Connor's operating. O'Connor had, in his early days, he of course had a team like this. And you know how they'll wrap the reins around the thumb on the driver. And he had to run away and got wrenched one of his thumbs. And he never did that right after that.
Yeah, couldn't use his thumb.
Well, he could use it, but he didn't feel safe.
Right.
And his nephew, Swartley, was his operator. He was a good one.
I see. Was it hard for you to get pregnant?
Well, it didn't seem to be.
Didn't seem to be, huh? You got pregnant pretty easy?
Yeah. Looked like it anyway.
Yeah. With a dozen kids, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna, is there anything particular that you remember when your kids were growing up that was really interesting? Because I want to shut off here pretty soon. I've got to get ready to go.
I don't. There's so much at the time when the youngsters were small. I just don't remember.
Did you stay home all that time, or did you work any place outside the house, or were you at home just all the time?
Home.
Uh-huh.
I was always home.
Uh-huh. Which one of the kids was the best student?
Well, Mark was always a good student, and Hugh was.
Hugh was good, and Mark was good.
Hugh was a real good student. Sometimes I wish he'd stayed at Mutual.
Mm-hmm.
Because he up on his pianos that has been kind of a meager living for him.
Mm-hmm.
He was a good, he was good in mathematics.
Mm-hmm.
He was excellent in mathematics.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he'd gone a long way if he stayed at Mutual.
Mutual of Omaha?
Yeah.
Well, Mark is awful smart, isn't he?
Well, he's been a good dentist.
Yes.
He's top dentist for root canal.
Mm-hmm. Good for root
And
canal.
then he's, my two younger brothers, were dentists.
Mm-hmm.
And Judy comes home every so often. When she comes home, she usually gets around to see some of her old classmates. And this one time, this one girl, she was the best dentist that she has went on about what a good dentist she'd run into. Well, Judy got tired and said, well, who's this best dentist? Well, his name is Jerry Steinmore. Judy says, that's my uncle. And then some years after Jerry was gone, he's one of them who went to a heart attack. He was the youngest too.
Mm-hmm.
And later, another time Judy was home, she was telling Judy that she'd been to Mark, and he had the same touch that Jerry had.
I'll be darned. Isn't that interesting?
A gentle touch.
Gentle touch, yeah.
And that was Jerry. And Dick was, he was a good dentist too. Somebody had asked some of his professors about the outstanding student. And it was Dick that he mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget what it was that he was something that's special that Dick was good at.
Uh-huh.
He's still living.
Uh-huh.
He's retired.
Uh-huh.
And there's a few old patients that he takes care of.
Uh-huh. I'll be darned. I wanted to ask you again, have you ever had high blood pressure, or have you ever had any any other sicknesses, asthma or allergies or anything much?
Nothing I know of.
Uh-huh. You never took any medicine for blood pressure or anything? How's your cholesterol been?
Well, I just haven't bothered about it.
You don't know? Okay. And tell me again, what is it that you like to eat over your lifetime? What is it that you've probably eaten the most of? What do you like to eat the most? Do you like salads?
Oh, yes, salad. I've gotten awful tired of potato salad. I used to just love it.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I can get along without it.
Mm.
But most any vegetable
You like vegetables?
yes.
You have?
I get me a nice fresh tomato and a pinch of salt.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a bunch of tomatoes out here. I think Catherine's got a half dozen. You know, you can see that
They're big. They're tall already,
and
aren't
they're
they?
full of blossoms.
Yeah.
And there's some about that size already, but they aren't pruned yet. I don't know what they are. They're so slowly getting red.
Yeah. It's been chilly this weekend a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, so you were eating vegetables. What about fruit? Do you eat fruit much?
Oh, yes. I think most any fruit.
Mm-hmm. What fruit do you like the most?
Apricots.
Apricots. Uh-huh. Do you eat much watermelon or cantaloupe?
Oh, I eat a certain amount.
Uh-huh.
I like them both.
What about fish?
Well, I can eat it. But I'm not as crazy about
But it's not your favorite.
it. No.
Okay.
I've gotten so tired of chicken. That's about all you can get anymore.
Yeah. Do you eat beef much?
Well, I like beef. And I like bacon fried out crisp.
Crisp bacon.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It has to be pretty crisp too.
Yeah. What about butter? Are you a butter eater?
I like my share of butter.
Uh-huh.
Most all this imitation butter now.
The margarine?
Margarine.
Uh-huh. Do you remember when margarine first got going, first got started back in World War II?
Oh, I can kind of remember, but I wouldn't place any date down with her.
Uh-huh. Do you remember having to mix the coloring into the margarine? You don't remember that?
I can remember when peanut butter got started.
When was that?
Well, the date I couldn't, but I was still at home. We had we'd heard about peanut butter, so didn't know what it was all about. But we ground up peanuts real fine and mixed this celery use for it.